the different mechanisms. I mean, having camera problems today, but that's okay. We're gonna make this work, and I just tell you, everybody, sit back, and we're gonna have a absolutely wonderful time with Lizette Lopez. And it's a lot of great things that we're gonna talk about today. So just ask everybody just to stay tuned, and let's get this thing started. Ha ha ha! And I tell you, if you want to be part of this, you can go to the comments and you can do a lot of things. But this is live on E360 television, a lot of different platforms, and I tell you, we're gonna do this. So first of all, here we go. Wow, E360 is our newest platform, and just want everybody just to get a quick understanding of this before we go live. And I apologize for my camera's not working right at this particular time, but we'll get it right. Hello. Hey, I'm James Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, Options, Opportunity / the Choice Program. Our primary mission is to help build the foundation of our youth and young adults and communities. And we encourage everyone to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you are here for a purpose. You also have to be able to step out your comfort zone and do things that you probably didn't think that you can do. Hello, welcome to It's Your Life. I'm James Cooley, and I tell you, we got absolutely fantastic guest here today. And she is living proof that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and that you can achieve anything if you work hard enough and if you believe in yourself. So, I am so excited about this guest that we have on today, and she's a author. Actually, she's several different things that we're gonna talk about. And she works in marriage counseling and a lot of good things. And but she's gonna talk about all of those great things when we get her on. But as always, we're coming from E360 television right now. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube channel. We're on a lot of different live mechanisms. And if you want to be part of what we're talking about, yeah, you can always go to the text link and just sit in and ask questions, and I promise you we'll get to them. So I I would be remiss if I didn't bring my absolutely fantastic co-host in, and she does all the heavy lifting, and she's doing a lot of great things today. How you doing, Michelle? How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good. Exciting day. It's been a beautiful day, so I'm looking forward to the show.
Looking forward to the show, and this guest, we done had her on a couple of times, I believe, and she is doing a lot of great things, and I'm excited to, pick up from last time that we talked to her, and also talk to her about her new book that she has out there. I mean, uh, you remember Lizette, right? Well, last we haven't seen her in a while. She bought that big home up in, I think, Big Bear up in that area. and but no, this is so exciting to have her on, and to find out all the great things that she's doing. So, first of all, Michelle, can you tell our viewers what the title of the show and what's the purpose of the show?
The title of the show is called Santiago's Daughter. And the purpose of the show is getting to know licensed marriage and family therapist Lizette Lopez and talk about her book, Santiago's Daughter, and discuss also mental health accessibility and the stigma of mental health, and discuss the ideal fix regarding the mental health crisis we are experiencing.
Wow. I tell you what, can you please introduce this great guest to our listeners?
Yes, Lizette Lopez. Lizette graduated from UC Santa Barbara in 2011 with a BA in feminist studies and a minor in applied psychology. Lizette then went on to obtain her master's from USC and is now working as a licensed marriage and family therapist associate in Los Angeles. Lizette runs her own virtual private practice and specializes in working with anxiety, depression, interpersonal conflict, and couples. Lizette is a founder of Spanish Clinical Skills Workshop Series, helping to train current MFT students in Spanish clinical skills. She's a published author of a book titled Santiago's Daughter and is working on other publications as well. Lizette sits on the board of the Long Beach South Bay CAMFT chapter as Director of Equity and Inclusion. She's also a trained mental health first aid facilitator and leads a variety of other workshops. Above all, Lizette is a Dodgers fan and a dog mom.
I tell you what, I can't take it anymore. We got to bring her on right now. We got to bring her on. How are you doing, Lizette? Long time no see.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, James.
How are you doing? How are you doing? And first of all, congratulations on the new book that you just released. And, I
Thank
can't wait to get my hands on it. So, I know we talked about that during the time that you were looking for publishers. And
Mhm.
but I'm glad that a lot of people don't follow through with stuff like that. But I'm so happy that you did. So, Lizette, you've been on the show before.
Yeah.
Can you tell our viewers and listeners, since you have been a previous guest, tell our audience a little bit about where you grew up and how you got started, and UC, Santa Barbara, USC, all of those great things.
So I grew up in Linwood, California, which is the neighboring city of Compton, California. So it wasn't the best or greatest upbringing, which I feel has led me to where I am today, trying to help people in similar situations in which I grew up in. I went to really bad schools and got very lucky to be put in a direction to go to college. And college was a really big struggle for me because I was not prepared for it. And I ended up getting through it little by little and then continued on to USC to get my master's and now run my own business in mental health from my home office.
So, yeah, I know that you had to expand or you changed because you opened up your own practices, like you just said.
hmm
How has that been so far?
It's been amazing. I really enjoy working for myself and making my own hours and being able to work with the population that I want to work with. I think that that's the most important part. When I was working for a company, I didn't get to choose who I worked with. Now I really specifically work with Latino communities because I am able to provide therapy in Spanish. And that is something that is highly needed to be able to do therapy in your own language. So I think it's been great, but it's also really stressful to be your own boss and be in charge of an entire business. It's pretty hard.
So, Lizette, did you know you wanted to be a marriage and family therapist growing up? And if you did, or maybe if you didn't, what got you into this profession?
I did not know I wanted to be a therapist. All my life, I wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I would use the mirrors on the closet doors and I would write homework on there, and I'd have all my cousins sit down and turn in homework. And when I got to Santa Barbara, I actually was on the path to become a teacher, and I got my class and I hated it. It felt like babysitting. It felt like I was doing more of disciplining kids than really teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I got more into my high school years, I was thinking about psychology. And I went to Santa Barbara and I didn't get into the psychology major because my grades were really bad. I was not doing well in the college scene. It was really hard for me. And then I found out about this, which is MFT is not a PhD, it's a level below that, which
Mm-hmm.
still allows you to do therapy, just not psychological testing. So I still made it.
Well, that is great. Sometimes, like you mentioned, you said in college, that your grades weren't what you expected them to be. Looking back on that and knowing where you are today, do you think that maybe you didn't push yourself, or maybe just the people in your life were not pushing you, or maybe you just didn't, it just wasn't gelling at that moment as far as college and your grades?
For me, it was none of those things. It was that my high school was so bad. I was not prepared for the college material. I didn't know how to read 300 pages in a week. I thought they had to read every single word and highlight every single part of it. And because my school was so bad, I didn't learn to write college style papers. Nothing about my education prepared me for college at all. So when I got there, it was really hard. And I had to do all of the tutoring classes, all of the extra writing classes, all of the office hours, and counseling, because moving away from home, I was the only one to ever do it and the only one to ever go to college. So I didn't know how to do financial aid. I didn't know what classes to choose. This whole world was a whole different thing for me. So it was really hard for a number of reasons.
Wow. How would you describe your work ethic?
Oh, overachiever. I think my work ethic is a little too strong to the point where I stress myself out, and I have to bring it back to remind myself that stress is not healthy. And as an advocate of positive mental health and mental wellness, I have to remind myself to reel back a lot of the amazing projects that I come up with in my head and remember that I'm only one person and I have to slow down to make sure that I am resting and that I am, what's the word, practicing what I preach.
Oh yeah, yeah. You always, I mean, work ethics. I mean, the people that know you know that you are an overachiever, that you want to get everything perfect. And you know what? We need more people to have that type of attitude. To actually put the time in, put the hard work in, to set goals, and understand that it takes a checking off the little bitty boxes in order to get to the big boxes and where you see progress. But you know what? We're going to take a station break. But we're going to come back and we're going to continue to talk to this great young lady. So I tell you, if you want to be part, you can just go to the text and just ask me questions and I will respond. AJ, how you doing out there? We'll be back shortly after the break.
There is much truth in a journey that ain't over yet, as all of us journey through life's precious gift of time, just like James Cooley has. Hi, I'm Noah Dingley, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. There's a new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet. You can join James as he shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. This is a must listen for anyone who thinks they're stuck in life or needs to understand their current situation is not their final destination. Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet is the unfiltered truth to provide hope for the future by challenging you to refuse to become a victim of life's circumstances. It dares you to be an overcomer because a bigger, better, and more impactful life awaits you. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phrases and stages. These experiences teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to It's Your Life with James Cooley. James is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. James is here to equip you to strive for greatness and overcome adversity. It's time to get you equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now, here's the host of It's Your Life, James Cooley.
Welcome back to It's Your Life, and I tell you, we got this absolutely fantastic guest that I tell you, watched her grow over the last couple of years, and you know, just like I said, she is an example that you can do anything that you set your mind to, but you have to know what your worth is. You have to know that you can. You have to believe in yourself. So just so happy to have her on the show, and I tell you, uh, Lizette, I'm so excited about your book that you just wrote, and I want to dive off into it. Can you tell us a little bit about its title, Santiago Daughter? Can you give us understanding why you wrote it? How was you feeling when you wrote this, and when you came up with all these ideas? And I just want to delve off into that and talk a little bit about that.
So I wrote the book because when I was at USC, I read a lot of books to become a therapist, a lot of books about mental health, a lot of books about people's stories, but I never read one that really resonated with my experience. And more so, it's my dad's experience. He had a severe mental illness, bipolar 1 disorder. And throughout all of my career at USC, I never read a book that talked about mental health and poverty and immigration. It's a lot different to try to obtain mental health services when you don't speak the language. And it also is a lot harder when you're undocumented or when you are seen as someone who doesn't belong in this country, therefore doesn't deserve services or doesn't have the right to services. So I really felt the need to write my story because I didn't feel like any of the stories that are already out there resonated with me and a lot of people in my community.
So You wrote when you was writing this book. How did you come up with your thought process on what the chapter was going to be, what the different portions of it? You know how us authors are, so it's just a lot of work, and it requires a lot of thought and organizing uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the proper sequence of what your story is telling. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I basically just did it in chronological order of my life growing up, my early memories of my family, and then my adolescence, and then college, and then USC up until last year, where my father actually passed away from COVID. So I write about all of that in chronological order with an emphasis on my experience of his mental illness, because I really think that in my adolescence, my really pretty childhood started to change because his mental health started to decline. So I kind of show how life was perfect in my eyes before his mental health started to take a dive, and how when that happened, everything just started to change, not just for me, but for my entire family.
Wow. You know, me personally, and I think some people like to keep their private lives private. Like they're not in denial. They know what's going on. They know what happened in their family. And some people like to share. And I think you mentioned that you didn't read or see anything about, something similar to your experience, growing up with your father. Was it hard sharing such personal details about what you went through, and as well as your father? And did you get any backlash or resistance from any family or close friends about writing the book?
So writing the book and how personal it is was definitely really hard. And it took me a long time to write it for that reason. The book is really easy and really short, but it took me a long time because as I wrote it, I was attending therapy to process all of the things that I was writing about. But when I finished it, thinking about other people reading about my really personal life was also really hard. So I only shared it with a couple of close friends and family at first to kind of test it out. And mostly what I understood was people need to read this story. People need to hear about what's going on, especially in the Latino mental health community. Backlash, definitely. I feel like because I talk about a lot of different people in my family,
Mhm.
it's not just my story, so I'm very much talking about other people's very private stories. And I think that as much as there was and continues to be backlash, I feel that the story is important enough to overlook and surpass all of that.
Have you received any feedback, let's say positive feedback, about people who, let's say, who have read the book, about how your story, Santiago's Daughter, has helped them, enlightened them, made them become aware of maybe memories they repressed growing up when these things were happening?
So right now the book is not on sale to the public.
Okay.
So the reviews and the understanding I have is only from close family members and friends who have had access to sample copies. The book is on pre-sale, which means that the general public hasn't really had access to it as of yet. But from the family that has read it, there has been a lot of comments like, I wish I would have had something like this to read, or an understanding of what was going on for you and your family, because I feel like now I wasn't being supportive enough. So definitely, I think that when the general public starts to read it, I have put a couple of sample copies on TikTok of me reading it,
Mhm.
and there has been a lot of comments coming through just really saying, wow, this sounds like me. Oh my goodness, I didn't know somebody else had the same experience. I had a comment from one reader say, my mom struggled with the same thing and never got help because she didn't speak English and we didn't know what was going on for her. So I feel that when the general public does start to have access to my book, there will be a lot more people who will resonate with it and hopefully find comfort and support from it.
I can remember when I wrote my book, and I released that, and family read it for the first time, and a lot of them was kind of mad at me because I really opened up and told the truth about a lot of things that happened and how I felt about these things, and it doesn't always resonate with family members because they say, "Hey, you shouldn't be talking. You shouldn't tell nobody about this." But I believe is that if you don't talk about certain things, if you don't release that, it's always going to be a burden. There's always going to be something that's continue to hurt on the inside of you as the author,
Mhm,
and because no one truly understands your feelings or how you're feeling on the inside.
mhm.
And so, yeah, we caught a lot of folks off by surprise, and I'm sure that you did the same thing.
For sure. I definitely resonate with everything you just said about, people being pretty upset that I'm speaking my truth. And I say it several times in the book. This is my truth. This is my story. It might not be the truth for somebody I'm writing about or from their perspective, but it very much is the truth from my perspective and how I experienced it.
Did you have any major challenges during the time that you were writing the book that kind of prompt you to go in this direction, get off track for a little bit, then get back on track, and continue to share your thoughts?
All of it. All of it. Well, the biggest part was that COVID happened. I was in the process of writing it, and then the world shut down, and I was helping people mentally go through the pandemic while I was very much struggling with going through the pandemic for so many reasons. So that was number one. I was, on track, and then I was like, well, now this is happening. And then I found the publisher and it was ready to go. It was ready to print. And then my dad got sick and then he ended up passing away. So I took the book back and I completely reformatted the story or the final chapters to resonate more with what the reality was now, which was that he was no longer here. And the process of him being sick, the process of a COVID funeral, a COVID death. It was just such a different experience from any other grief processes that I've had in the past.
Wow. In your opinion, who do you believe need to read this book? I mean, I know everybody do. In your opinion, who do you think need to read this book based on the subject matter that you are sharing?
I think two main populations come to mind. The first is therapy students. I really believe that anyone in the social work field or the mental health field, students or practicing therapists, should read the book to get an understanding of this population: Latinos, immigrants, non-native English speaking communities. So that's the biggest population I think it would be helpful for. But then also that exact community. I wrote it in a very easy to read conversational manner, no big words, no confusing topics, on purpose. I want people to have a second or third grade level of reading to be able to pick up the book, not be intimidated by it, read it, and be able to provide support to that exact community.
Wow. I tell you, we're gonna have to take a station break. But we're gonna come back. We're gonna pick this great conversation up, and I tell you, if you got any questions that you want to ask this young lady, just put it in the text category, and I'll make sure that she get the answer. She get a chance to answer your questions. We'll be back shortly after the break. It's your life. I'm James Cooley. Hey, I'm James Cooley, the host of E360. It's your life, the James Cooley Show, which I tell you, I want you to watch because we're going to encourage people to dream big, think big, and be big at everything they do. We're going to have absolutely fantastic guests that are going to come on that's going to inspire each and every last one of us. And we are going to work together because we are a team. And you always have heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a kid or communities and all of these other type of things. That's what we're going to do with the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life on E360 television, on 31 different podcasts, on the radio, streaming, radio, TV. I hope you join us real soon. It's Your Life. I'm James Cooley. See you soon.
The third one, commitment. We all are committed to the In and Out project, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. I came all the way in from California just to make sure that I'm here. I'm committed. So commitment is when you say you're gonna do something, when you go to join a team or you're gonna volunteer, you're gonna do this. If you say you're going to do it, you got to commit to it. And we got to get our youth. We got to get our society. We got to get our community. We got to get our leaders. We got to get everybody to commit to making our communities better and giving others opportunities.
It's time to dream big, think big, and be big. It's time for more It's Your Life. Now, here's your host, James Cooley.
Welcome back. Welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm James Cooley, and we got Lizette Lopez here who's sharing her story. She's talking about that great book that she has written. And just like I said, I can't wait until it goes on sale so I can get my copy of it. And, so looking forward to reading this. And I tell you, I will let you all know as soon as it goes on sale. So look, Lizette, how has sharing this story helped you or healed you?
I think writing it has healed a lot of feelings that I had about my father, and helped me really understand a lot of my feelings. I think a lot of me was confused and angry at a lot of different aspects of my life. And being able to write it down and interview other people about their experience of my father has really helped me put a lot of things into perspective and be more compassionate about people experiencing mental health disorders. And I really hope that it also helps enlighten other people to take the same journey.
Lizette, you mentioned earlier about mental health accessibility. There's just so many reasons why people are not seeking it or not provided. Can you tell us what do you think are some of the issues related to mental health accessibility?
Number one is the money. It's always about money. In my work as a therapist, you either had to be really poor to qualify for Medi-Cal and then be able to obtain free services. And if you were anywhere above that threshold, then you had to have a lot of money to be able to pay for your own private therapist. And it's that in between, the people who are barely making it, but not in the low enough bracket to be able to qualify for free services, but not high enough where they're able to afford their own therapist. So I think number one issue to accessibility is money. Mm-hmm. And number two is the stigma. A lot of time people don't even seek out support, even when they're in the hardest of times, because of the way that therapy is viewed. especially in different cultures. It's viewed as disrespectful to the family. It's viewed as a very negative thing. If you are having to see a therapist, you must be crazy. And if you're crazy, you can't be in our family. So I think money and stigma are the two biggest reasons why accessibility to mental health continues to be difficult.
And reading about the stigma, at least the things I've read, especially when it comes to men, it's always, not always, but it seems more acceptable for women to seek therapy. But when it comes to the men, the stigma, or people perceive them, oh, you're seeking therapy, you may be weak, how are you taking care of your family, what is your wife gonna, people gonna think about you. So I do understand there's certain cultures, but do you agree that the stigma afforded to males is even a bigger problem we have even today?
Oh yeah, it's a fact. It's in all of the research, especially for specific cultures. I know in Latino culture there is a big theme called machismo, where men are supposed to be strong, no feelings, provide for the family, and basically what they say is what goes. And if you think about that being the role of a man, what happens if they are struggling? They're not allowed to talk about it. And if they're not allowed to talk about it, why would they ever consider reaching out for support? It's not something that's accepted culturally, which makes it such an issue with it coming down through generations. The struggles continue through generations because of the beliefs in different cultures. And as a male in all ethnicities, you are seen as someone who's supposed to be strong for everyone else, which then makes it so much harder for men to seek help. And even when they do, because I do have a lot of male clients, it's a secret. It is a big secret, and no one should ever know that they are seeing me, because then what would they think? But I see men healing so many parts of what's going on for them that I just wish that they were able to tell other men how beneficial it is, but also to start to make it okay for men to really talk when they're struggling.
I agree with that. I Do you see a situation where that and consequences of, let's say, a man not seeking help could be some of the consequences, let's say, hurting themselves or violence towards their family and friends because they're the stigma of not of getting help. Could that be some of the consequences if they're not receiving help?
Oh, very much so. It's in therapy and in research, it's called generational trauma. When, for example, let's say that a man grew up in a house where there was domestic violence, he is at a higher percentage of also being an abusive partner. And that's because those parts of him have not been healed. When a man is not obtaining help, it very much affects everyone he relates to, because there is unprocessed trauma, there's unprocessed grief, there's all of the feelings that have never been dealt with. And when those feelings are not dealt with, they're just kind of loaded onto everybody around them.
Wow. So we talked a little bit briefly in the intro about you being a licensed marriage and family therapist. Can you tell our listening audience a little bit about what that is and what type of clients that they might not know that they're a client that
Yeah.
need to come and see you?
I think that's such a good question, because I didn't realize that my title of licensed marriage and family therapist made people believe that I only work with marriages or families. I actually don't work with that many couples, or I don't have one family on my caseload right now. As a marriage and family therapist, it's basically just telling you what schooling I went through. So you can be a licensed marriage and family therapist, you can be a psychologist, you can be a PsyD, you can be an LPCC. I mean, there's so many different titles. social worker, but we all basically do the same thing. We are here to support, to help, and to heal.
Wow. But mental health wise, I mean, you had mentioned a second ago, families do the ones that you do work with, do they come in that together as a family to seek that type of help because mental health is a major issue in our society today.
Hmm. I have had some families come in together. Definitely. It's a little interesting to be able to do that on telehealth because I have a whole bunch of different people on different iPads. It's doable, and I definitely think that family therapy is a really brave step for any family to take. At this time, I mostly work with individuals with anxiety and depression. So it's interesting to see that my title says marriage and family, and I don't work with a lot of couples and I don't work with a lot of families. And that's mostly because that's not the population that's seeking my help. I feel like families, it's really hard to get everybody in the room and agree to it, and two, it's really difficult to coordinate who's all going to attend. And with couples, usually one person wants to do it and the other person doesn't, which makes it really hard to also get couples in the door.
Lizette, do you believe there are a lot of cases where, say, someone has sought help and maybe they were misdiagnosed or given or provided unnecessary medication, which is not going to solve the problem? I mean, I do believe, and I'm not a subject matter expert, that medication does help some people if it's necessary, but there are a lot of people out there who've been misdiagnosed and been provided with unnecessary medication. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it is 100% true. Again, with the accessibility part of mental health, so many percentage of the psychotropic drugs that are prescribed don't even come from a psychiatrist. They come from somebody's primary care physician. If you go into your doctor today and you tell them, I think I have depression, they're quick to give you the Xanax. They're quick to give you whatever the new depression pill is because that's their job. Their job is to give you medicine. They're doctors. And that's definitely not what needs to be happening. People need to come and they need to talk and they need to heal what's underneath the depression. And like you said, Michelle, it does help a lot of people to do the medication route because a lot of times you need to get back to your baseline in order to work on these really heavy things that are happening. But the way that the system is working right now, it's not happening that way. So many people are receiving medication from their doctor on just a 10-minute visit. You tell them you have anxiety, here's the Xanax. You tell them you have depression, here's the SSRI. And it's definitely a big thing when people do go to a psychiatrist or do go to a therapist and they say, oh, yeah, well, this is my diagnosis. Well, where did that come from? Did you have a full assessment done? Who gave you that diagnosis? How long did they see you in order to truly understand that that was your diagnosis? I now do teach a class, and so many of my students have told me of the diagnoses that they've been given. I'm like, well, did you ever ask how or why or where that came from? And it's such a big thing that as consumers, we don't ask because we believe what the professional is telling us. And most of the time, that professional is not always qualified to give you that information or that prescription.
Wow.
Wow. So it's what you just said was it's a lot of misdiagnosis of,
Mhm.
of that. So Lizette, when a client comes to you, how do you go about assessing that client so that you would know that you are the right person, or you can make recommendations for someone else that might be the right person? How you go about doing that?
Yeah. So typically, when anyone reaches out to me to see if they can start services, I have like a little cheat sheet of all the questions I ask in order to agree for them to start to see me. And it's a lot about what my expertise are, but also about what they're looking for. I want to make sure that what somebody is looking for is something that I can provide, and if not, that I know someone who can do a better job of supporting that person. So I always ask what they're looking for, what's going on for them, and what they kind of envision therapy looking like. And for example, with issues of postpartum depression. It's not something that I specialize in. So I feel more comfortable referring that person to some of my colleagues who specialize all the way in
Mhm.
that topic. I would feel more comfortable with them speaking to an expert in that topic than speaking to me who knows about general depression, not about postpartum depression. So I have screener questions and I go through those questions, especially with suicide. Are you actively suicidal? Have you attempted suicide in the past? Are you currently having thoughts of suicide? That's a really important question that I ask off the bat because it's not recommended that I see you because I only do telehealth. If you are actively suicidal and I don't know where you are, that's an issue. So I definitely have all of those screener questions in order to refer people to the appropriate care.
Wow. We're going to take a station break. We're going to come back because this is so exciting. So I tell you, you can still ask her any question that you want to. Just put it in the notes. We'll be back shortly after the break. It's your life. I'm James Cooley.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phases and stages. These are your experiences that teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. James is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the James Cooley Foundation. James is here to equip you to strive for greatness and to overcome adversity. It's time to get
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to It's Your Life. And I tell you, uh, if you've been listening, been watching, you see that this is an absolutely fantastic young lady uh, and an absolutely extraordinary therapist that's doing a lot of great things. And I tell you, um, like we talked about in the beginning, the title of her book that we're talking about, we talked about earlier, is Santiago's Daughter. And also, that is she got it held up, So so it's going to be out soon, I guess. She's going to let us know when it's out there, and not just that, but she just like we mentioned, she's doing a whole lot of things, especially when it comes to mental health, when it comes to marriage and family therapists, and she is answering some of the questions that many of us, I believe, have these thoughts, but we just don't know what these thoughts are and who we need to seek out and get help. Was that so? If what would be the ideal fix to solve, a lot of these mental health issues in your mind?
In an ideal world, I feel that mental health would be free for everybody. and and that would be possible by government funding. If us therapists were paid directly by the government at a rate that would allow us to live our life, feed ourselves, so a good rate that would allow us to see clients comfortably at no charge to them, I think that that would take away a lot of the stress of people seeking therapy, and then we would have more time to go out and do advocacy, to remind people that getting help is okay, leaning in for support is okay, and to start to work in those communities that continue to have such high stigmas about obtaining support and about speaking about their issues outside of the family.
Now, you had mentioned a little bit about the communities. What are, I mean, I know a lot of people, just like you mentioned, there's some stigma that we're not going to reach out for help because we just that macho is that pride. How would you encourage uh, different communities to seek out? And what are some of the programs that might not be as costly that they could turn to or get information to seek out and get the help that they need?
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones that I know, well, if you qualify for Medi-Cal, that's number one because it's all completely free. If you don't qualify for Medi-Cal, there's an organization that I'm a part of, openpathcollective.org. It is a low cost therapy site where you can go and search for a therapist, and all sessions are between $30 and $60. I take a lot of my clients from that site, not because I enjoy being paid less than everybody else that I work with, but because I know that that was me at one point. I couldn't afford therapy, but I also didn't qualify for Medi-Cal. And I did find a therapist who gracefully agreed to see me for $30, $40, $50. And I was able to afford the care that I needed. So I think definitely that's number one. But number two is your story and my story. Being able to be vulnerable and talk about our experiences openly, publicly, and very shamelessly. I think that it's a very vulnerable thing what you've done and what I've done, especially based on our ethnicities. In Black, Latino, and Asian cultures, it is very not okay to talk about your dirty laundry in public. And I think that the more that people are able to do it without shame, it will push and encourage other people to do the same thing.
And you're absolutely right. I just and the communities that you just mentioned, there's still a lot of misconceptions, but there are a lot of facts that what you just said. In the African American community, uh, many of us would not even think about reaching out and talking to a therapist. And but I believe that we have to be able to encourage all communities that we all have problems and we all need help. It doesn't matter whether you from a rich family, poor family, or whatever that is. We all need help because we all think differently in our ways, and sometimes we get lost. Uh, how would you encourage? Um, I mean, I know you deal primarily with, women. You say you got a few guys.
Mhm, mhm.
What would you tell some of the guys that might be listening to you us right now um,
I
on
would
speaking?
say take the brave step. If you really think you're brave, let's see how brave you are when you come and you talk about some of these things. I think talking about feelings and allowing your feelings to happen is seen as a weakness. And I think it is the strongest thing you can ever do because it is really hard work to come into the Zoom room and talk about the things that are happening and be vulnerable and be raw about just what's hurting. And I think one thing that I also want to mention on the previous question is the importance of having a therapist that looks like you. I think that above everything, it's so intimidating when you're looking for a therapist and none of them look like you. I think the most powerful thing for me in doing therapy was having a Latina therapist for so many reasons, because I didn't have to explain a lot of my cultural situations. It's just kind of understood and implied, and being able to switch back and forth in my language. I think a lot of times I'm thinking in Spanish and speaking English, or speaking Spanish and thinking in English, and being able to go back and forth was really healing for me. And right now I work with a lot of Black women and Asian women, and it's really impactful when you think about culture. I have a lot of students who are also minority students, and I'm just so excited for them to go into the field of providing support, because we really do need to be represented by the people that we feel most relatable to, because it was really intimidating for me when I had a therapist who was not of a minority culture, because I felt scared, like they weren't going to understand me. And because of the racial hierarchy, I already felt like they were in power of some sort. So I definitely think that having more people of color go into the field is so important.
Wow, Lizette, we down to about the last 2.5 minutes, and I still got a million more questions, but we probably won't get there. But I can always invite you
Mhm.
back.
Always.
Hey, but what are a couple of takeaways in the next minute or so that you want our listener audience to get from this great discussion that we had?
Number one, search for therapists. Even if you feel like there's not a lot of big things going on, exploring your past definitely gives you a lot of insight into how you're currently functioning in your relationships and in the world. So I want everybody to seek therapy. And number two, a takeaway is that everyone needs healing. Everyone needs support. Even if it's not in therapy, it could be in community. Whether you build a community at church, whether you build a community with your friends, with your family, everybody needs support. One of the biggest indicators for positive mental well being is having a support system. And I see that right away when clients come to me. I ask who's their support system. The people who have a lot of people, or a little bit of significant people, always do better faster than people who don't have anybody that they can confide in. So if you're not seeking therapy, definitely seek out really intimate relationships with people that you can be very vulnerable with.
How can folks get in touch with you if they were seeking out for your help or just wanted to ask you a couple of questions?
So I have two different websites now. One is Zulibi LLC, which is ZULIB LLC.com. That's where my book and all of my information is on. And then I have my therapy website, which is just my name, Lizette Lopez, LMFT.com. I have my email on there. I have my Instagram on there, my TikTok, my phone number, my Instagram. Everything you need is on both of those websites. So definitely, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out, email me, call me. I love talking to people about therapy. Obviously, I can talk about it all day. So definitely, if you want recommendation or support, feel free to give me a call.
Lizette, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's your life. And just like I mentioned, you are invited back. We'll talk about that,
Yeah.
especially when your book goes on sale. But just want to thank you so much. I'd like to thank my co-host, Michelle Cooley. I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for taking the time to tune in to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Remember, we're on television uh, Tuesday and Wednesdays every week, at this time right here. So I tell you, I want everybody to have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful time. We'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow on television. I'll see you later on today on radio. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. It's your life. I'm James Cooley.